everyone, welcome to my channel. If this is your first time, welcome. Have a look around. I've got lots of videos on Aussie grooming and handling. If it's not your first time, welcome back. As always, please subscribe so you can be the first one to know when new videos come out. I don't always post them to my other platforms, but YouTube will let you know when a new one is available. So this video is going to be all about show, collar, and leashes, what options are out there, why we use them, and how to pick the best one for your dog. So first up is the chain, and the slip chain specifically. So when I put it on the dog, if we were to imagine my wrist as the dog neck here for a second, you can see how it easily slips loose and tightens. So that's why this is called a slip collar, and these all up here are chains. Now chains are probably the most common because they do slip very easily, as you just saw, tighten and loosen very easily. Also, they're normally the thinnest, so they're not very distracting. And they come in all these different colors. So black, silver, bronze, gold, whatever you're fancy or whatever matches your dog, you can pick that collar. So these come in all different sizes as well, which will go into which size you should buy for your dog. They also come in different thicknesses. I only show Aussies, so I don't have a lot of varying thicknesses, but you can see, for example, these two, where this one is a little thicker than this one here. They do come in much thicker for bigger breeds or much thinner for smaller breeds. But like I said, I generally only do Aussies or Poodles or medium-sized breeds, so these are generally just the size that I need to stick to. Now the slip collar also comes in nylon. So that's this one here. This one is pretty thick. This one does come in a thinner or thicker material or width, but the material is softer. So if your dog is sensitive to the chain noise, which you probably can't hear in the video, but it does make a little bit of a noise when you tighten and loosen it. So if your dog is sensitive to that noise, a nylon one would be better. Also, these are generally softer or thicker, so it's might not be as sensitive to the dog's neck. So these are all these slip leads that tighten. The other thing I did forget to mention is these are most popular also because the dog cannot back out. So again, if I pretend this is the dog's neck here. So if you're in the middle of exam or just walking your dog for some reason and they back up, this tightens so they can't back out of it and get loose. So that is very popular and safe for that reason as well. You never know what'll happen at a show. A crate can collapse or dog doesn't like the judge and starts backing up. So these will tighten and secure your dog to make sure they don't get loose. Now, if your dog is sensitive to the choking mechanism, then there are some other options. For example, this is called a martingale. So as you can see here, it goes on the dog and it does tighten a little bit. So you can see just a little bit of tightening there, but doesn't tighten all the way. So I'm pulling there. The chain doesn't tighten all the way to my wrist or to the dog's neck. So that is an option if they are sensitive to the choking part. I have these two because I use them on my poodles. Since poodles' necks are shaved, sometimes the shaved skin gets sensitive to the tightening of the slip chain. So I use a martingale for poodles generally, and they might be a little more sensitive. So, and frou-frou, so I just do the martingale for them. So next one here is a combination, collar leash combination. So you can see here, it's the same martingale mechanism for the collar. There's this little plastic slip to make it even bigger if you need to go on a bigger dog or tighten it if it's a smaller dog. But one thing that's different about this one is the leash is connected to the collar. So this is the part you'd hold, and here's the collar. So it's just one continuous item. This is really popular for toy breeds. A lot of times they do make small collars, but a lot of times they're heavier, or some dogs may be more sensitive to the weight, or it just looks clunky. So a lot of the toy breeds, they're really thin and they're just one continuous leash and collar combination. I only have this one from I don't even know where, but good example to show you guys. The next one up is actually the last collar option out there, which is called a Resco. And this is actually, again, a collar and lead combination. And this one is it works similar to a martingale in that it doesn't tighten all the way up to the dog. However, it doesn't have this middle section. It doesn't have this connection here. You can see the Resco, the collar, and these continuous strands just keep going to wherever this clasp is. So you can tighten it up as much as you want. You got to be careful because it does get really close sometimes. But you can make it as small as you want. You can make it as big as you want. And it's just one big loop that you can change whatever dog you're showing. Most of them don't come with this little connection here, but this is very useful because when the dogs spin on this Resco, your leash starts looking like this, very twisted, so you have to like come to the bottom and straighten it out. But what this connection does is it rotates. So if your dog's spinning and spinning and spinning, the leash doesn't get all tangled and twisted. So not all of them come with that, but that is an option if your dog spins. That's out there. Another popular use for the Rescos, I would say, I don't show them a lot, but I have seen them used a lot on like beagles and cockers or terriers. Generally, dogs that like you need support to hold the neck up, or ones that would remove the leash in the exam, which I don't recommend for beginners, but I have seen like with beagles and cockers and even setters, you would remove the collar during the exam to see the neck without any interruptions or whatever. So this is really, really easy to take on and off in the ring if you're expert level and want to do that, showing any of those breeds. For Aussies, we never remove the collars, so don't even worry about that. One thing also is the slip chains and the martingales actually come in what's called a snake chain. And it looks a little bit, it's a metal like this, but the links are flat and closer together. I do not recommend them. Popular belief is that they alleviate pulling hair, but it's actually the opposite. They pull the dog's hair. So I don't use those at all. I would not recommend them. I have used them in the past, but I haven't kept them, which is why I don't have any to show you. I'll try to find a picture on the internet to pop up, but I would steer away from snake chains and I would just focus on these regular links like this. So no to snake chains. So we've got the slip leads, which are the slip collars, which are most popular. They do tighten up, so if your dog is sensitive to that, you could use martingales or you can use a Resco. Resco is a collar leash combination, so if you want to choose a different lead than collar, I would go with the martingale collar, so you can choose your own lead. If you don't care, Resco is a good option, but generally for Aussies, we always use the slip lead. And just the difference between nylon and chain depends on your preference, or if your dog is sensitive to the chain. So, next up is leads. So first off, what I want to say, the connection between collar and lead, I highly recommend not getting a clasp like this. One reason is they look super clunky. So if I were to compare like this connection to, where is one? This connection. So just looking at these two right here, this one is much cleaner. There's no bulky clasp in the middle. So just looking at it, it's cleaner. Also, there is risk of this getting caught in your dog or caught on something and then opening up and your dog gets loose. I have seen that happen many, many times. And third reason is these, since they are clunky and your leash is moving around so often, it is possible that you're moving your lead around and it whacks the dog in the head or something. So might as well just avoid that situation entirely and not get a lead that has a clasp on it. don't use those at all. So moving on to the actual leads themselves, there are tons and tons of options out there. I prefer a fancier lead. There are those who say that's distracting and don't do that, get a plain one. However, if it catches the judge's eye, I think that's a good thing. That means they're looking at you. So as you can see here, there's tons and tons of different color and bead options. I would just, go to the show, bring your dog, and just pick one that doesn't clash with your dog. So this would be a good option for like a black Aussie, a black lead. I got a lot of blue leads because I show a lot of blue Aussies. I use this one on the white poodles. So you can try to match your dog, or you can go crazy and get like purple. That's obviously not going to match a dog. Pick your favorite color. As long as it doesn't, clash with the dog, or it's not super obnoxious like lime green. I mean, but if that's your favorite color, then go for it. I don't know. I would say totally up to you, personal preference when it comes to leads. So now I'll move on to choosing what size. So when it comes to chains, choosing the best size, you should always bring your dog to the vendor that you go to so you can actually try it on to make sure it goes on your dog's head easily, make sure it's not too big and it falls off easily. I would suggest that once you put the lead on and you're holding the collar kind of tight on your dog's head, that you have at least 2 inches of wiggle room. That way you can, easily put your fingers under the collar and hold it, but also it's easy for you to get the hair out from under it to make a clean presentation. So I would have no shorter than a 2-inch gap between the collar and your dog's head, but I would not go more than 5 inches. I would say it does look flashier to have a bigger collar, however it's more risky because your dog can easily back out, but also it's harder to manage because it can slip really far down the neck and then you lose control, or it might not look as pretty in the presentation. So somewhere between 2 to 5 inches. Beginners, I would say 2 inches bigger than your dog's head. Pros or whatever, you can, do whatever you feel comfortable with. But one thing to note, like I said during the exam, if the collar's too big and you lose control, your dog might slip out, or the collar just messy looking, hard to manage. So that is for collars. So bring your dog to the show to pick the collar. When it comes to the lead itself, again, I would say it's up to you, but if you are a beginner or if your dog's a beginner, I would lean towards a shorter lead. That way you're not spending a ton of time wrapping it up in your hand, or like your dog's not all over the place because you have all this lead. So I do have a video on how to collect your lead really fast like that. So you want a lead that's long enough where you if you were to stand out in front of your dog and free bait, you can get far enough away from them. But you don't want to be so long where you're spending a lot of time wrapping the lead up, or it's just like dangling on the ground and getting all dirty. So wherever your comfort level is, I would say if you hold your hand at your hip, the lead should reach the dog's head with a little bit of slack. So that's as short as you should go, and then you can go as long as you feel comfortable with from there. Just as a reference, this one I have here is 34 inches long. I just have like this little tape measure thing here. So this one I have here is 34 inches long, which is not too long at all. I would say this is one of the shorter ones I have. And then you can just get longer or shorter, like I said, whatever you're comfortable with. So another tip, however, is if you have a leash with a lot of bling, you want to make sure that the bling is not so high up on the lead that it gets wrapped up in your hand. So here's where the bling starts. That's where I would want to make sure I keep my hand. Like the bling's outside of my hand. If I have to do this, then all of a sudden this gets super full and hard to manage. So you want to make sure whatever size you get, the bling is down where your dog is, not in your hand. And again, with the length of lead, you don't want to have to spend a lot of time gathering it and have a ton of lead in your hand. So shorter is better if you don't want a ton of lead. So how to put on the collar and positioning. So this only applies to the slip leads. This doesn't apply to martingales or rescos because those don't tighten. But I have the lead here. Oh, I should probably show you how to attach it first. Let's do that. So you have a leash combination, lead and collar combination that you want to attach. So here's my collar, and here's my lead. So you would take, most of these leads will come with two circles, two loops on the end. The bigger one is going to be for you to hold, and the smaller one is going to attach the collar. So I'll take the smaller loop, and I'll put it through the circle on my collar, like so. And then I'll take the other end of the lead that I hold with the bigger loop, and go through the smaller loop. And you'll pull it through all the way over all the beads until you get to the end, and then you just tighten it up here so you have this really clean connection. So unlike these clasps that I say do not use, there's no way for this to become undone. So your dog will be more secure, and it's just a cleaner look. It's not bulky. Would highly recommend that over a clasp. All right, so now we have our lead connected to our collar. So how to put this on the dog. I'm going to hold the end that is not connected to the lead, so this end here. I'm going to feed the collar through that end, like so. So I have this, the end is on the collar. Now I have a loop. So now I'm going to hold the leash end in my left hand. So see, I got the leash in my left. I'm going to hold the circle, like the loop part, in my right hand. So I've got this tight collar, and then it loops back around to connect in the middle. It's like a P if you were to put it down on the table. So I've got the lead in my left, collar in my right, and if the dog is looking at me, this is how I would put it on. And it does matter which way you put it on, and I will show you why. So this is designed to, if you needed to, tighten and stay in position. So if you can see here, if I need to guide my dog or give a little correction, I can tighten it. And if I pull it, that connection right there stays exactly where I want it on the neck. So I loosen, tighten, it goes back to the same spot every time. If I were to flip it around and go in the wrong way, if I were to pull it, you can see it's moving. So I'll do that again. This is not even like, I can't even show you. So it's loose, kind of. There, it's loose. And I tighten it, and if I pull it, it moves on my hand. So go the right way. Normally, the dog's going to be lower than you. So here's the dog lower than me. I pull up or to the side, that connection, even over here, that connection isn't moving at all. And if I go on the wrong way, if I pull up and go over here, see how that moves? So this connection is now like on the other side of the dog. So that's the reason why you really want to make sure to put your collar on the right way, because this connection here where it tightens is going to stay in the right spot. That way you can lead your dog, guide your dog in the right way. It doesn't get messy. Your lead stays on the side of the dog that you are. So I have a little video example here of placement on the dog. So a lot of handlers will place this connection either right under their chin or a little bit to the right of their chin. And the reason for this is because when we loosen the lead, like if we were doing a free stack, or if we were moving and we wanted the dog to have a loose lead, we can easily let go of the lead and loosen it, and the lead doesn't hit the dog or distract the dog in any way. And when we tighten back up, the collar is exactly where we left it and where we wanted it. If I were to have the lead on the top of the dog's head, and I would loosen it up, it would basically land on top of the dog's head or on top of the ear. And this is obviously going to be distracting to them. It's not going to look pretty. So this is why we always put the lead under the chin or slightly like to the side of the head, so that we can easily loosen the lead if we want to and it's not distracting or in the way of the dog. So I hope you found this video useful. There's a lot of different options out there. As you can see through this whole video, this has become like a giant mess. But a lot of it's personal preference. I would say the most important thing is the collar, but if your dog is sensitive to certain things, just be wary of that. Other than that, really personal preference. Pick your favorite color. Make sure you don't, clash with the dog too much. But have fun with it. Yeah, so hope you like this video, and see you at the shows.